Ponytails podcast. Here we go. And we are back. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Look at this beer. The taste of Portland. How's it going, everybody? My name's Andres Gamboa, and this is the Ponytails podcast. I am your host, and I am excited for our guest today. Maddie Whelan is on the show with us today. She is in the back room waiting to get hopped on. Before I bring her on, a couple of introductions. If this is your first episode, welcome. Hello. If you don't know what the heck this is about, we are a podcast that interviews people who sold books door to door with Southwestern Advantage for 80 hours a week during their college summers. We've had guests here who sold all the way back in 1968 and up as recently as last summer. So super excited to be on the show. We started this about a year and a half ago and we have blown up. It is so fun to be here with you. This is episode 118. So, if you've missed a couple, you can go back and check out some of our previous ones. But again, welcome to the show. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, it should be right over here somewhere. Make sure you guys like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We're all over the place. And so those are a couple of welcoming things to us. If you don't even know what this whole Southwestern Advantage thing is about, boy, buckle up your seatbelts. Girl, buckle up your seatbelts. All of the things. Be ready for this roller coaster of a story. Today's guest is going to be so fun. I'm so excited about it. A couple other things. One, and we're going to mention this in detail, but we've had some updates and changes to BIZZLER. It's still going to be happening. It's still on. It's just we're changing the way that you can get booked because we've switched opportunities on how you can sign up for it. Maddie's going to talk with us about that because she's the one to go to now to be able to sign up. So that's super exciting. And then, of course, we are going to be launching our store on Sunday. So we're just giving you a little bit of the sizzle of the steak. We're getting into more details on that on Sunday's episode when we release that live. So make sure you tune in for that episode. More on those details later on. I think Nick would be the one sharing that with you guys. And then, so keep an eye out for that. Get some Ponytails gear, and hats and sweatshirts and all that stuff. Super excited about that. So also want to give a shout out to some of our friends. First of all, Will Metscher. I actually just hung out with Will on Saturday before I went to Miami. He was actually with me when I found out that I was going to go to Miami, and we were just having a beer, and I met with Jacob Baines, and those two were the guys that really inspired the podcast to get started. My stories with them is kind of fun. But throughout the time that we've been on, Will Metscher, he's been a guest, and he loved what we're doing so much that he wanted to support. And so I want to give him a big old shout out. If you're like me, one of the biggest things that you probably miss about being in Southwestern is the ability to make a lasting impact. And so the reason why book people are so unique is because they were college students who were helping other college students learn the things that most people don't learn until like 30s or 40s or 50s. So if you want to be the kind of person who makes an impact on those people, you need to work with Will. Unless you're living under a rock, you probably know what Southwestern Consulting is. The cool thing is that Will is one of the most successful coaches, and he's hiring people to work with him. So make sure you reach out to us. We can put you in touch with him. Every one of the coaches that he's worked with that like work under him have earned six figures and have built a really, really cool career, making an impact on the people that they work with. So if you want more details on how to work with Will, he helps people not suck. And he's helped us out a ton by coaching some of our team. So happy to be working with Will. Shout out. Love you, buddy. Good seeing you last Saturday. And then, of course, our most recent, one of our newest sponsors is actually Quentin Roberts. He's a seven summer bookman with Cardinal Senior Benefits. Cardinal started 4 years ago by alums Pedro Vega, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago, Nick Dale, who we'll be having on the show sometime in the future. And they have a crazy good team. They've doubled and tripled in growth every year since they started, and they're doing it again in 2022. Pound for pound, they're probably they have the most production per agent than any final expense insurance group in the company. And these guys don't do any cold calling. So if you don't want to do any door knocking, if you don't want to do any like prospecting, they have warm leads that you can work with, and agents are able to make a pretty healthy six-figure income working about 25, 35 hours a week on that. So working smart and hard. They're doing a pretty heavy push for recruiting. So right now they're doing a $500 bonus for anyone that is hired and gets their parent support letter in. And in addition, if every 5 referrals that we get, we'll pick one of the 5 people that refer them to get a free trip to BIZZLER. So that's coming up. So feel free to recommend yourself or anyone you know who has some Southwestern experience or some solid sales experience. Send us a DM on Instagram, message us, or comments on the YouTube channel, and then reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with Cardinal. So speaking of BIZZLER, I'm actually going to bring out Maddie to join us here. So a little bit of an introduction. She's a badass. So Maddie sold for 5 summers from 2017 to 2021, part of the Olympus organization, which is a branch of the JYD organization from Shane Blick. Love your brother. You're great at the CU Boulder in Colorado. So that's exciting. She had the number 7 org her last summer, which is pretty exciting. That's a huge accomplishment. It's hard to have a successful org, let alone a top 10 org. Which means she led a group of like 15 to 20 kids to do a really, really good job over the summer. That's hard to do, people. That's probably the hardest job in the whole company. She recruited a top 10 first year, which is also amazing. Speaks to her leadership abilities. Again, hit growth, which means she gave herself a pretty hefty raise of about $8,000 to $9,000 over the summer beforehand. And she sold during the 2020 pandemic, where her best summer was that year. So I don't know if you guys heard about that flu that was going around since 2020. But it was kind of a rough day for everybody, rough years. It's been rough. And she decided to take that as an opportunity and kick ass. So without further ado, Maddie Whelan, everybody, what up?
Hey, what's up?
How's it going?
It's going good.
You're on the show. I'm glad we finally got this happening.
I know. I've been watching since the first episode, so it's good to be on finally.
It only took us 118.
It's fine. It's the best number.
Dude, happy to have you here. I wanted to bring you on because we're going to be talking about what you're up to now, which is helping us partly to get to BIZZLER. But before that, I also wanted to have you talk a little bit about some of our other partners and give a shout out to Seth and Zane and the group at Elevate Wellness. How are you prepping physically and emotionally for this? Tell us your experience.
Yeah, so I actually did the Sizzler Shred last August. So they put together the first Sizzler Shred program for students in Southwestern Advantage for Sizzler. And then I wanted to rejoin and kind of just learn a love of lifting. So I didn't really have a goal when I first started. It was before even BIZZLER was announced to me. I signed on, and Zane has been coaching me for the last 4 months. So I started right when I moved to Arizona, which I guess we could talk about, but I've been doing it ever since, and I've loved it. Zane's been really helpful to me. He's been, he really got me into lifting, and I even joined a lifting group in Arizona now. So it's been really cool to see how my love for lifting has grown since I first started with Elevate. So I can't really thank them enough.
Yeah. They're so fun to work with. They teach you like what to eat. They get you some motivational stuff. It's really cool. It's a full blown. It's not just go get shredded, bro. It's like a solid accountability group. It's so fun. Anyway. Look at that. Those are dang.
Yeah,
you could fight crime with those guns.
Yeah.
Dang. That's so cool. So awesome, man. Well, welcome to the show. Let's jump in. Are you drinking? Are you drinking with me?
Yeah, I mean, in honor of BIZZLER, gotta have a margarita.
That's right. Let's get into it. All right. So BIZZLER, let's update people on what's going on, because this is part of what you're up to now. Well, of course, we'll be getting into some book stories here in a little bit. But I always like to start out with seeing what alumni are up to now. You're officially no longer a book person, active book person, because they just left for sales school.
I know. I live with Elise Miller, who just left for her 12th summer, and it felt a little weird not leaving with her, but I'm really happy. Yeah.
It's like a little bit of guilt. You're like,
I should be there too.
It hurts a little bit.
Yeah, it's been interesting.
Heck yeah. So tell us, we can talk about your move as well. Tell us what happened since last summer, since you moved on from the company. Catch us up to what's going on up to right now in BIZZLER.
Yeah, so at the end of last summer, all of the fall, I kind of went through the phase of, am I coming back? Am I not? So I actually didn't really fully decide to not come back until GRS. So I went to GRS this past year. It was really fun. It was great, but that was my last Southwestern interaction was GRS in 2022. I'm so glad I went. Like, it really helped me solidify that I'm meant to do something else. And I had the conversations I needed to, mainly being, sales was awesome, but that's never why I joined Southwestern Advantage. So I wanted to move on and do something a little bit more my style, which is what thankful I'm doing now, which is operations in Southwestern Travel. So it's been awesome.
Heck yeah. So how did Southwestern Travel kind of originate? Because that's one of the newer sister companies, right?
Yeah.
And then we can start talking about how you're helping us with BIZZLER through that. So talk a little bit about the job itself and then maybe what you're up to with us.
Yeah, so all throughout the fall when I was going through, I don't think it was an existential crisis, but I definitely, it was a down point for sure because I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. Hans Schlegel at Thinking Ahead was really kind of guiding me, just basically PCing me every week. Like, you'll figure it out soon. I promise. Here's why you're okay. And Hans really is the one that introduced Southwestern Travel to me. When I first joined Southwestern Advantage, I saw that it was a brand new company because I think it was like a year. I joined in 2017 and Southwestern Travel started in 2016. And that was the one that stood out to me the most, was like, oh, travel planning, fun. I love planning stuff. So, but then it went on the back burner for my book career. And then this past year, I forgot to even mention this, but I hit OFL before I left. So I became an employee at Southwestern Advantage. So that was a really cool accomplishment. But then the decision was, do I want to continue being an employee or do I want to be an employee somewhere else? And so Hans really guided me through that and introduced me to Terry Rickard, who's my boss and my mentor. And she's just amazing. She's really listened to me and helped guide me through. I'm still new. Like, I just started in March, so I'm still very new. So it feels like I'm a first year again. But it really feels like it's meant for me. I wake up excited every day for work, and all the work I put into selling books, I think, has really paid off with getting this job and continuing with this job moving forward.
Heck yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I love that. So then we can get an example of what your day-to-day looks like by talking about what you're doing with us and helping us organize BIZZLER. So this would be a good place to kind of like talk about the details and how it works. And so if people don't understand what's happening, BIZZLER is an alumni trip that we're planning. So the Ponytails podcast through a podcast found out that we were actually having the ability to reach several alum through all the different channels. And so because of that, there was a lot of people that had the idea that there should be like an alumni get together, but Sizzler, but with alumni. And Nick was the one that really was, and Maddie, both of them, and Naomi, excuse me, were like, why don't we do the alumni trip? And so that's how I started. Like, well, we should just call it BIZZLER. It could stand for Better Sizzler, but we won't claim that. Maybe it's just Business Sizzler. I don't know, but it's probably Better Sizzler. And yeah, so that's how the idea got started. We had no idea how to do it. We worked with another alumni who was working with another travel group, and the contract with them was up by the time that by May 1st. And so then we came to you and we're like, hey, let's partner up because you just started with Southwestern Travel, and it sounds like you could also help us out with continuing on the registration throughout the rest of the summer. So the dates, if you guys are listening, are August 15th through the 19th of 2022. So that's kind of like the basic details. We're going to Cancun, the Valentine Imperial, right? Yes. Heck yeah. So let's see. Now I'm going to hand it over to you and ask you. So I'm listening to this right now. Let's pretend I'm listening. And I am listening as an audience member. And I go, ooh, that sounds interesting. How do I get to go to that? And then Maddie.
Yes. So how you go to that. And first of all, BIZZLER, I mean, Sizzler was the best part of being a book kid. Like, if hitting Sizzler or going to Sizzler, that's the thing some people look forward to all year, and why they sell books or systems. Sorry, to my new people. But how they sign up is through a registration link. So it's the same registration link that newer folks, like I guess 2017 on, used to sign up for Sizzler. So it's the same company that plans both, which is really cool. Terry's more in charge of the Sizzler part, so she's helping me take on Sizzler, which is really exciting. But you just sign up through the registration link. We'll send that out. We have an email list that we can send out to as well. We have a mass alumni email list we'll send it out to. I'll post it all over my socials. And if you want it personally, you can just DM me, Andres, Naomi, Nick, or anyone at the Ponytails team. And we'll send you the registration link, and then you just go on there, click it.
Yep. And then we're also going to put it on the description of not only this episode, but all episodes coming up. And then we're probably going to replace the old link that we had for BIZZLER on some of the previous. So if you guys are listening to other episodes and you go back to listen to like Lee McCroskey's or something a little bit more older, you can find it there too. So it's going to be pretty accessible. And for sure, you know what? I'm actually going to pin it. Yeah, there it is in the comments right there. Thank you, Amy. She's awesome as a producer. And so let me share that screen of that link that you sent me so you can kind of walk us through. Okay, so I'm going to add this to the stream, and hopefully you guys can see this. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, there should be a video of this, but you can also just go to our YouTube channel and find these exact details and see what we're talking about. We're 15 minutes in if you want to find the episode itself there. Okay, so walk me through this and kind of what people need to know as we kind of scroll through this.
So that's a beach.
Nice. That's a beach, isn't it?
Yes. So we'll be at the Valentine Imperial in Cancun, Mexico. So my favorite Sizzler was in Cancun. That was my first one. So really excited to go there. And the partnership is with Ponytails and Southwestern Travel Group. So if you want to scroll down a little bit.
Yep. And then details on this part, no kiddos. Sorry, y'all. But if you sold books and your spouse did not, they are welcome to come. So it's not exclusive to just alumni in that regard, right?
Yes. Alumni of any regard, please come. Guests welcome. No children under 18, Andres.
That's right. No children under 18. We don't want no crying babies. Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, not sorry.
We're not.
Yes. So we are bringing back a lot of the same activities or similar activities that we had to Sizzler with an adult twist. So we will be doing a couple club nights. So bringing our college days back, Mandala, great club. And then we'll go to Coco Bongo on the last night. So that's going to be really bringing it back. If you know, Coco Bongo is the place to go. It's so much fun. But then we'll also some daytime activities. So we'll be doing a volleyball tournament and then also an excursion day. So an excursion day, we're still putting together the list of all the excursions that you guys can sign up for. But you can go and sign up and do an excursion that day. There will be at least 2 or 3 options, if not more. And then at night, we'll just hang out at the hotel, have the sunset and possibly sunrise at the beach, depending on how late you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't know, older people can party hard. We're just We'll say more experienced alumni. We won't call them old. That's mean. Sorry.
That's mean.
I'm still
of course, you don't have to go party at the Mandala, but that's the plan that the majority of the group is going. So
Yeah, you don't have to come, but it'd be cool if you did.
Here's a buying atmosphere right there. You don't have to do any of this, but you should.
Yeah, but you should. It would be cool. And then obviously the last day we got to do slosh ball. The slosh ball is a must. So
absolutely.
Yeah, for people that haven't been to Sizzler in a long time, slosh ball, I don't know when it started, but it's the tradition that's been every year of Sizzler since I started. And you have to chug a beer before playing a game. So every time you enter, you have to chug a beer. And then if you get out and you get tagged back in, you have to chug another beer. So by the last game,
it's a shit show.
But it's so much fun. It's like a whole tournament style game. It's going to be such a blast on the beach next to the water. So it'll be great.
Absolutely fun. And then this is something that a lot of people were asking about was COVID testing. So there will be COVID testing at the resort.
Yes.
So you guys can get back home safely. Cool. And then the 19th people depart. Check out by noon. Heck yeah. So here are the goes on. Let's talk about the rooms really quick and maybe how the pricing factors into all this. You want to take that?
Yeah. So there's 2 main different styles of rooms that people can go into. So I know at most of the Sizzlers, it's been like 3 or 4 to a room. We have other jobs and we want to have our own room sometimes, or like at least one person. So there's 2 different options. There's one room, or there's a double occupancy. So you and a friend, or you and your significant other, or it can be random if you want. So 2 people into a room. And then there's also a single room option as well. So single occupancy. And that one's a little bit more expensive, but they're both pretty reasonable for what you get.
Yep, that's right. Now the price is $9.99 per person. Right. and that's the room. It used to be, and this is, by the way, if you're new and you had gotten all the details, but you quite hadn't signed up for BIZZLER yet, we've changed it. It used to be $1,500 including flights. Now it's just $999, but it's not including flights.
Yes.
So essentially, the $500 goes towards a flight. We are now requiring that people take care of their own flights. We also figured that this was a better option because it kind of just depended on where people were coming from. Someone's coming from, say, North Dakota or Minneapolis, it might be a little bit more expensive than someone flying in from Houston or something like that, just because of the natural reasons. So again, just in case you didn't hear, $999 per person. That is definitely, and that's for you and each. So it'd be $999, and then your spouse would be, or your significant other, or your random roommate would be $999. And of course, there is a deposit option, right? You were telling me, and then the payment options.
Yeah, so there will be there's two different payment plans. So the first one is just paying everything up front, and then the second option, there will be a payment breakdown monthly, so just June and July, and so that will be about $474 in June and $474 in July. If you're doing the $999 option, to be honest, I haven't done the other one, the half now, half later. Yes, I haven't done the math in my head for the single occupancy yet, so my apologies. But if you are going to register, which I highly recommend, we will require a $50 deposit, but that is refundable through June 1st. So if you decide to sign up and then you're like, okay, never mind, until June 1st, you'll get all of your money back. So yeah, that's the deposit.
Heck yeah. Now there is an incentive that we're running, and so to incentivize people to pay up front. And the way this is going to work is we have already, through contract, we have checked out and reserved a certain number of rooms in the resorts. And then there are some that are closer to the beach and the restaurants, so you don't have to walk as far, and you can just wake up and go eat all you can eat 10 feet away, 50 feet away. And then there's one that's way in the back.
Yeah.
So for the people that pay up front, you're going to get dibs on the rooms closer to the beach, first come, first serve order. And then the opposite is true for the half down, half now, or half now, half later folks. Because, you know, we gotta do it old school, Southwestern style. We gotta incentivize the mamas to pay right up front. Let's go, baby.
Exactly.
Let's go, baby. So we're looking forward to that. These are really great details. Again, if you want to sign up, all you got to do is click the link. You will get in touch with your link is in the description or in the comments below. There's a pinned comment right now on it, so you can go there and get signed up. Again, this is for anybody who sold books. If you completed one summer, it doesn't matter how many units you sold or you haven't sold, we don't care. Just if you sold one summer or more, you're invited. And you can bring a friend, whether it's a spouse, significant other, or whatever. Now, there will be merch and stuff that we'll be giving away, prizes and stuff that will be given away along the way. So just keep tabs on that. Make sure you guys keep listening to episodes. Follow our Instagram and Facebook to make sure you guys get updates as this develops and as we keep moving forward. We have several people already signed up, so we're just getting that momentum and keeping it on rolling. And then, of course, any questions that you guys have, you can go to the link, click on contact Maddie, basically, and she'll be able to contact organizer that'll get you in touch with Maddie, who will be able to answer all of your questions. So if you're wondering about the single pricing or if you're wondering about anything else, of course, you can totally get signed up for that as well. Anything else that we missed, Maddie, that we need to talk about?
No, feel free to DM me on Instagram, message me on Facebook, text me, whatever you want to do. I'm happy to answer any of those as well. So
absolutely. And more importantly, share with your friends. We want a good representation of the different eras of selling books. So we have some people from the 90s that are coming. We have some people from the mid 2000s that are coming. Obviously some 2010s people. I think we're missing 80s and below. So, that way we can get a solid diversity of representation and have a really cool gathering of alumni.
Good luck beating me in slosh ball, by the way. That's it.
Like the gauntlet has been thrown. There's going to be the Ponytails podcast team. So we're going to have to add you. I'll recruit you to that.
Yeah, I said whoever's team I'm on, they'll win. So
right. So you're on our team. That's exactly right. Cool. Absolutely awesome. Thank you so much, Maddie. So Let's hop into your time in Southwestern, if that's cool. Would
Yeah.
that work for you? Let me talk a little bit, or give a little bit more love to some of our alumni partners, and then we can roll into that for sure. First shout out I want to give out to Southwestern Real Estate and Pat Roach. Speaking of sister companies that are awesome, ton of industries out there that are making a lot of money, but the reason that sister companies succeed is because there's mediocre standards among them. Real estate is one of those where 95% of the registered agents fall off within a year of getting registered in the industry itself. But then when Pat Roach came in about 15 years ago and grew Southwestern Real Estate, actually the opposite happened, where 95% of his agents and the agents of the company stay and make six figures. So that's pretty sweet. So it's too good of an industry to mess up at this point. And Pat and his team are looking for people to join. So they have a pretty solid culture. They're 99% drama free. And if you guys are kind of looking for more flexible schedules, if you're looking to kind of get out of that 8 to 5, maybe look into something new. If you think the Property Brothers are dreamy and you've always been a fan of HGTV, you can give us a call. We'll hook you up with Pat Roach, and he can get you an interview, especially if you sold books. Also, give a shout out to Thought Leader. Thought Leader is an education company that teaches people to land TED Talks. They've helped over 400 people land their TED Talks, and they're looking for you. Thought Leader is partnered with Ponytails Podcast exclusively, so we're looking for Southwestern Advantage alumni to join their team. They have two openings, two roles. One is an SDR role, and the other one is an Enrollment Advisor. So for the first one, the SDR role, if you're looking to work with them, you're going to be calling warm leads again. No more cold calling. You're calling warm leads and qualifying them and make sure that they fit for the program that they're selling to help people get their TED Talk. If you're on target, your expected earnings are about $50,000 to $75,000 per year. So that's like if you have very little experience, or if maybe you're one of those that only sold one summer, but you wanted to jump into something new. But of course, there's a path to the other role, which is their Enrollment Advisor. Now, this one's pretty sweet. You're going to be talking to pretty interesting people because they're wanting to give their TED Talks, and they're all going to be qualified. You'll wake up each day and your calendar is already pre-filled with all your leads, all your sit downs. So imagine that. It's like having your sit down set, and you're just going to go to each sit down. Obviously, it's all over or online. And then the earnings on this role are about 130 to 200K. They have pretty high standards on this role, so not everybody's going to get in. You're not guaranteed, but you can for sure get an interview through us, and we'll get your recommendation over to Dillon Barr, who is the head of sales and client experience there. If you want to email him, it's DB, like Dillon Barr, at thoughtleader.com, thought-leader.com, as you see there on the screen. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And then last but not least, I want to give a shout out to Cardinal again. They are recognizing some of their agents through the spotlight here that we're giving on the podcast. They had 6 people last week, average $14,000 in gross profit in just under 31 hours per week per agent. The number 1 and 2 slots go to non-book people. How is that possible? Come on, book people, get it together. Lucas Holland and Michael K both did that. But then number 3, 4, 5, and 6, they were all book people. So that's good. Ian Penzato, Greta Huerta, love you, girl. You're awesome. Nathan Alberts and Travis Mickelson. Michael K is now 5 weeks in a row of making 10K in gross profit per week. And Nate Alberts is now on his 8th week in a row of making over 10K. In addition, 47 other agents had over 5K, 27 other agents had over 5K, and 39 earned over 3,000 for their week last week. Wow, that's pretty sweet. If those numbers sound cool to you, no, it's not bad at all. If those numbers are appealing to you and you're a former bookman or woman, you may be looking for something different. Maybe you're just unhappy with your current job. Cardinal's hiring. So for the next few weeks, we're going to get a $500 referral bonus. And of course, every 5th person, for every 5 people, we're going to choose one of the 5 to get a free trip to BIZZLER. So make sure you reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with them. So yeah. Now, Maddie.
Yes.
Talk to me, girl. Talk to me. Let's wind the clocks back. 2017. You remember the time when there wasn't any sort of masks? Oh, gosh.
None of them existed.
What a time where you could just fly in an airplane and not be like nervous about someone sneezing.
Fair.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Like when you're in public and someone's like, you're like,
yeah. I don't know. Airplanes are still kind of gross, though. I always had like a get away from me vibe, even though I work in travel.
That's fair enough. It's good for the people watching. But anyway, so let's rewind the clocks. 2017, who the heck is Maddie when someone approaches you and talks to you about this wacky job for the summer?
Yeah, so I was a sophomore in college. I went to CU. Gotta say, SCO Buffs. That was my thing in Southwestern, just SCO Buffs. I think it's like SCO Buffs. Yeah, the horns. And yeah, so I was having a good time at CU. I was on the dive team, so I did diving all through college, which was really fun. It was a club team, so it was nice because I could do homework and then still go to practice, and it was not like overwhelming. It was just all fun. And so that's what I was doing. Yeah, it was pretty fun. What else? I studied psychology, so who am I? It's hard to answer that question. Like, who am I?
Especially back in the day, right? You're like, man, so much of my life changed after this.
For real, I haven't thought about this time in a while, but I was a psychology major, and that's what I graduated with. So I loved psychology. I stuck with it the whole 4 years of school. But at the time, yes, I was a sophomore in college, and I was floated. It was very much like random. I was sitting in it's called the UMC. I was doing homework. I had giant headphones on, which I actually don't know where those went, but I remember really specifically. I was doing homework during lunch, before a class or something, and this guy is wearing a full suit, and I'm wearing like sweats because I think I had practiced that day and it was winter. It was February and snowing in Colorado. I'm doing homework, and Alex Haar, so he was my student manager, so he was wearing a suit. And if anybody knows Alex, like, he's an intimidating looking dude. Like, he's a good looking, intimidating dude. Yeah. And so I wasn't the most secure in college, I think. Like, I've found my confidence more after college, but at the time, like, not really secure. And when someone like Alex walks up to you in a full suit, like, I was just confused. I was very confused. I don't really seem like the type of person, like I love being social and talking to people, but I'm not like that girl at the party, you know, like, I'm just here doing homework. And so he's like, comes up to me, he's like, "Hi, how are you?" And I have headphones on. I was like, "Hello, who are you? Hey, what's going on?" And I was just stunned. I didn't know what to say because that had never really happened to me. And he's like, "Yeah, so there's these informational sessions, you should come." And I forgot the whole conversation. I was just like confused. So he basically invited me to an informational session that same day. And at the time, I worked at a water park in Colorado called Waterworld. So Waterworld is like this. It's one of the top biggest water parks in the nation. It's like top 10 in the whole nation. It's huge. And there was about 350 people that worked there that were all high school, early college aged. So I had a job set, basically. I was supposed to be a manager. I was the year before, so I had the tax paper signed. Like, I was basically going to training the next month to become a lead again, which is what it was called, the manager. So I didn't really have intentions of actually signing up my first summer. And I know everyone says that, but like, I really like didn't. I went because Alex was scary, and I was like, I can't say no to him. I can't. He's so put together, and I'm like doing homework, and so I went because I was always the person that, like, I always did my homework, and I loved school. Like, college was an awesome time for me. I loved it, and so I didn't want to like miss class or miss the info session because I told him I'd go, and so I went, and Shane was running the info. I think, I don't know. I don't remember much about it. I just know it was February and it was cold, and I had come from practice with like wet hair.
Another sharp dressed guy. Just
yes.
Also, and he's not as intimidating though, but he's like one of those people that just, this is how he frowns.
Yeah.
He just naturally smiles. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no.
I'm like, exactly, he doesn't even have to think about it. He's just like, you're like, what? Okay, I'll smile too.
Yeah. Man,
so you heard about this thing? Were you one of those where it's like kind of sketchy? I don't know. Or were you like, I'm in, throwing it all the kitchen sink?
No, not that. No, I was more, I didn't like, it seemed very real to me. Like, it seemed like it was legit to me. I wasn't worried it was a scam, but I was really nervous about the door-to-door aspect. And I had my, I guess, excuse was that I already had a job lined up that was a guaranteed $8,000 fun summer. Like, I already knew that, like, I already had the summer in the bag. Like I was ready. And when I first heard about it, I was like, well, I already have another commitment. Like I can't, maybe next summer. And I've always had a passion for leadership. Like I've done leadership classes in high school, even middle school. And that's what really stood out to me was like just building my resume and leadership skills. And just pushing myself, like constantly pushing myself and growing. The sales part was really intimidating and the door-to-door part. So my interview process with Alex, and God bless him, he had long interviews with me. And my third interview, when I finally signed up, should have been probably 2 or 3 more days worth of interviews, but it was a long, like 2-hour day 3 of him saying, you should do this. And I'm like, maybe, but I don't want to. And like, but you should. And I'm like, maybe, but this. And he just kept running through all my objections until I finally was like, okay, fine. I shook his hand.
Nice. Now when that happens, I always have to ask, what was it about the program? Because you said you had $8,000. You said you liked the challenge, but was there anything else that was like really pulling you towards it? Because it sounds like you were really conflicted about it. And so most people say it's the challenge or the hours or the travel or the money, but I think there's always something deeper and it's kind of unique for person. Was there something like that really was gripping to you?
Yeah, I think the network opportunity, like I loved making new friends. I loved meeting people, and just the thought of having people that were from Europe that I would know, or from Florida that I'd know, or from Texas or from California, which now is kind of a reality, which is really cool. But at the time, that really stood out to me, was just having a never-ending network. Because my brother joined a fraternity in school. I have a twin brother, and he was at CU too. And so I was watching him in this fraternity, making all of these like connections with people that he knew. And I was making connections with the dive team and the swim team. But my first year and second year there, the relationship wasn't as strong between the swimmers and divers. So I was still trying to network beyond college. So that was what really stood out to me, was just the ability to network and meet new people.
And that's dope. And that mission accomplished though, because I mean, it works. Because here we are. I've never met you in person, but
I have a best friend in now, so it works.
That's epic. So did you ever like kind of go cold, or were you like unsure of it? Or once you here, talk to me about that. So walk me through up to sales school.
Yeah, I knew when I shook Alex's hands that I wasn't going to quit. No one else knew that. Literally no one else knew that. I made it very hard for my managers, I think, and bless them. I was very emotional until about my third summer. I never went cold between when I shook Alex's hand and the end of my first summer, but I wanted to quit a lot. I never did enough to actually do it, because like commitment is that important to me. But there were times that was the only thing holding me together.
That's epic. And and we can get into some of those stories. So, but before that, I always also like to ask, what was sales school like for you, and where did you go that first summer?
So my first summer was in Delaware. Most of the people in my org worked in Maryland, but there was one HQ or 2 HQs turned into one in Delaware. So I was in Delaware.
Beautiful.
Sales school, I was a tryhard, and I was like a long time like the overachiever, wanted people to like me, try hard. So I was that person at sales school that was like booking it and trying my best, but also secretly underconfident. So like I think Jossie Anguiano, for anyone that knows her, she like called me out. She's like one of the first people ever that called me out on that, and like I cried. She's like, you don't have to like stop trying so hard or something. It was pretty like cutthroat the way she said it, but it's what I needed. Like she did exactly what Shane asked her to do, which was just like coach me and help me. But at the time I took it very personally, and I was like, who is she to say it?
Who do you think you are? I am. Yeah. That's epic. Damn, sales school is like a trip, isn't it? Like you're just like so fired up. There's so many like high energy things going on. It just kind of blows your mind a little bit of like the people that come out. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sales school I did student council in high school, and we actually used to have this camp every summer where it'd be like it's a Colorado thing. I don't know if they have it anywhere else, but like 500 student council kids from across the state would all go to a college for a camp for a week. I know it's kind of nerdy and crazy, but it reminded me of that because it was really high energy, like achiever people, but it was that plus like track practice with running. Like it was the student council camp plus running all the time. So I've had doses of sales school in my life before, so that part didn't like stand out to me. It was more the staying awake that long. My
Yeah,
body
it's
was exhausted.
it's bananas. So if you go to Delaware, and when you're in Delaware, did you get out to a fast start? What was that first experience like for you? Was it kind of like hit the wall, or were you
Oh
like,
my
whew?
gosh. Alex told me to tell this story when I first did my first summer because it's just so crazy now. I mean, it's so silly now, but my first day or week, I was so focused on doing the job right that I did it totally wrong. And it's so funny when I even think about this now, but for some reason, like I thought that you had to talk to every person in the neighborhood before you can move on to the next neighborhood. Like I took
Oh,
my
no.
coaching really seriously. So I stayed in this one neighborhood for like 3 days and I can't believe the cops didn't get called on me because I like was just circling around this one suburban neighborhood for like 3 days
Oh
straight.
my God.
And no, I worked one day, I followed, then I did it 2 more days in a row, but it was this one neighborhood, I like, it will forever be ingrained in my memory, but it was this one neighborhood, and then I showed, my not my roommate, my roommate that I lived with was a B manager, and so I think, like and I love her, oh my gosh, she's the best, and, like, she's great, but she's not currently in Southwestern, and like that part of her life I don't think was her yes thank you was her like forte per se. So like the coaching on that wasn't like great from her, but then when Jassy or some of the older managers saw my map, they were like, dude, what are you doing, like you need to go.
There's this whole town.
Yeah, so that was a long answer to your question, but yeah, it was not a good start. My whole first summer was not a train wreck, but it was just crazy.
Brutal.
Yeah, because
How
I
did
was
you?
good on schedule, just not doing it right at all, like very wrong. But
That's wild. That's wild. And the difference it can make, right? If somebody had just kind of like even pointed this out to you, like, you know, at the beginning, how it
yeah,
could have changed, right? And
yeah,
now I want to ask you, you don't have to answer this, but like in those moments, because you talked about moments where all you were hanging on to was your level of commitment. Like what advice would you give someone that maybe is maybe listening to this in their first summer and maybe is thinking about quitting? Like what did you say to yourself, and how did you push yourself through like this like rough wall that you seem to be running into?
yeah. Well, one kind of a no-no, but I called my parents. Yeah, my mom really helps.
Oh,
Yeah, but uh, my advice would be not to do that actually, because that made it worse for her and for me because she was now worried about me and I was yeah. So that would be my advice is not to call them. But the advice that I would give myself is that like do what you say you're gonna do. The reason that I think that happened is because I was still selling stuff. Like I think I sold like 43 units, which wasn't great, but that wasn't bad for a first year that was making that mistake. So like it kind of went unnoticed, I think, and that was the problem. Um, and so my advice would be just do what you say you're gonna do, and you'll meet more cool people. I think my overall lesson in all of selling books was that people are actually really great. Like there's this
mm,
perception of book sale or of I mean I've seen the news since I've stopped selling books, and it just seemed and I was even talking about this with Terry the other day, my manager, that sometimes it seems like a crime to like your job and to like enjoy people and
mm.
have good experiences, but people really are great. So just go meet the next great person that will make you forget about this hard part. But also just do what you say you're going to do. Like, you didn't come all the way out here to leave.
Yeah. This is so funny that you mentioned this, and this is maybe a little bit of a tangent. We'll come back, but I was just talking to, so I have a weekly book. I have a buddy of mine who I keep in touch with back from Nebraska, and the way we keep in touch is we're reading a book. We'll read a book and kind of talk about it. And one of the books that I have still on my desk here, but we're going to start this probably after the one that we're on. It's called Factfulness. And actually Crystal Weebelhouse gave me this book, which she's still selling. Good luck, girl. The summer, and her and Justin. But the book is specifically, or I guess the way it has been described to me is it talks about how in the news, and if you watch social media and stuff, there are a lot of people talking about how crazy and like shitty the world is right now, of like all these bad things are happening in COVID and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And if you look objectively, this is actually the best time, even if you live in a crappy or not a well-developed country, like if you're from Colombia, for example, right? Like, it's actually the best time ever to be alive. And so like the general moral of not just this story, but like kind of the conversation I was having earlier today was that like, if you choose to look at the good things, there's actually way more good things happening in the world than bad. Although the bad ones are bad, and it's not to minimize the hardships and things that people are going through. That's not what we were trying to say. It's just more that it's still a pretty fantastic time to be alive. And it's in the same way, the book feels kind of that way, where you can really focus on the rough moms or the rude people at the doors or the heat or whatever, or you can choose to go, hey, like, I'm in Delaware. This is so cool. Like it's beautiful out here, right? In your case, there's a lot of really great people, and all I have to go do is meet them. And I'm a woman of integrity and of my word, and you stuck to your commitments, which is probably, it seems simple. But what you did, and I want to commend you, is hard. It's hard to do. It's hard to stick to your word sometimes when it's hard, you know? And
can I mention something about that really fast?
Yeah, all day. We're just here talking.
You're good. One thing, because you were talking about Will Metscher and having a life coach. So I also have a life coach, which I'd love to talk to Will as well. She doesn't do Southwestern, so I won't say her name or anything. But one tip that she gave me at the end of this year was to do a digital detox. So like a lot of us do physical detoxes and like clean our bodies and healthy eating, but we spend a lot of time online. So I did it took hours. Like I did a full digital detox. So I deleted every number, every Instagram follow, every Facebook friend of somebody that I didn't feel like served me. Because I think we put a lot of importance on like, oh, what are they going to think about that? But it doesn't matter because they're not the one looking at your phone. So I did a total digital detox. And so now whenever I'm on social media or like online, a lot of it's so like my social media is really positive, and it's so I'm okay spending a lot of time on my phone because it's all like good quotes or people I like or news I want versus like bad news. So that's something I would recommend.
That's beautiful. That's why you unfollowed me. I get it. So
no.
I'm kidding. But no, that's a beautiful thing. I think I'm going to try to do that this weekend when I have some time. If somebody doesn't want to take the time to do that, actually on that note, one of the things that helped me is, at least with Facebook, is you go to like on Facebook, you can like type in whose birthday it is today. And like you can see whose birthday it is. And so then every day you just go to see whose birthday for like 5 minutes, maybe while you're using the bathroom or something. And you just kind of check like, all right, would I say happy birthday to this person? Like, do I care? Like, do I care if they say happy birthday to me, if it was my birthday? And if the answer is if the answer is not absolutely yes, it's okay. Unfriend them. You don't care. They won't care. It's fine. And so by the end of the year, 365 days later, you're stuck only with people who you actually care about. That was in case people don't want to take that time, because it does take hours, after, to go through everybody, for sure.
I think it's worth the time because if you're on your phone all the time, but I love that idea too if you don't want to do it.
Yeah, so fantastic. That's really, really good. I like that strategy. I'm going to use that strategy 100% because social media can be used as a tool for the good if you control it and not the other way around. So brilliant stuff. Gosh. Wisdom from Maddie. Let's go. That's fantastic. All right. So And a summer one, unless you have more stories from there, and you can bring them up as they come along or as they hit you. If you don't, we can move on. But
the episode would be 4 hours if we talked about every story that I've ever
fair
had.
enough. Fair enough. So as they come up, we could just talk about them. But then
Yeah.
how did you know you wanted to come back? How did you know? Because that's another thing that's always interesting is you get to the end of the summer, this thing was, especially after deliveries where you just like busted your ass, literally. You're like, how did you know? When did you decide?
So I didn't actually know until March of the next year. So I was very anti after my first summer. I guess the context, I sold about 1,100 units, so I didn't do terrible. I barely missed Sizzler, but I was really emotional my first summer, like constantly, all the time, cried like every day. It was just like because I thought I was doing so bad. I would beat myself up, and then I like compared myself to I thought I should be doing anyway, all those thoughts. So after my first summer, I was like, Alex, thanks, peace. I did what I said I'm gonna do. Please don't talk to me. So I actually ghosted like everyone in Southwestern the entire fall. Like I didn't go to the awards banquet. Um, I didn't go to any of the events. Like they would try to invite me, but I was just like, see ya. And, Alex, I mean, I would credit it to Alex's recruiting effort. Like he's the one that really believed in me enough to come back. So his team, that was his second summer, so he was still pretty new as well. And everyone on his team quit except for me that summer. So yeah, he had that was I think he had like 6 people, maybe 7. I'm kind of airing his story too, but he had a lot of people, and then they all quit. So I know that wasn't easy for him looking back, but at the time I was so focused on my own summer that I just didn't care. But I mean, I was his only shot of even having a B contract come back. In retrospect, it's not that big of a deal. Like if I didn't come back, he would have just kept recruiting because like he's still in it. He's going out next week. I'm really proud of him. But looking back, I put a lot of importance on myself. Like I would be his team. So then, yeah, it's funny now, but so I ghosted everyone, and then Shane, he somehow convinced me to go to GRS, which is where that's the magic happens. But the whole time at GRS, I was rooming with Alex's sister, Katie Haar. Love you, Katie. And she did really well that summer, but she also decided that she didn't want to go back. Rooming us together was probably not the best idea recruiting wise because both of us, the entire GRS, were just like, why are we here? We don't want to be here.
This is stupid.
Oh, it's just funny now, but we both were like really negative to each other at GRS. And then the first inkling I ever had of like wanting to come back was the Freddies. Not even all, I didn't pay attention all of GRS. I thought it was stupid. I was like, I'm not recruiting. Why am I like, this is dumb. I don't want to be here. So the Freddies, I saw like we were all dressed up and it was at the Wild Horse. I think that was the first year it was at the Wild Horse Saloon. So it was new to everybody that year.
I was back to the Wild Horse Saloon.
Yes. Yeah. So
my first one was at the Wild Horse Saloon. And then it moved to the boat. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, so watch yourself, sister.
Sorry. Yeah. This company's
these veterans.
It's been around for a while.
Now I feel old.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
didn't mean to.
Back to the Wild Horse. Sorry.
Yes, back to the Wild Horse. But I'm just seeing how it was all set up. I was like, oh, this is cool. But I still was like, I'm not coming back. So at this point, Shane, love him, and he's such a great recruiter, but he kind of gave up on me after that. He was like, all right, yeah, I think this is a lost cause. Like, we're just going to move on we're going to run with our horses here and run with the people that are coming back. But Alex, he had more time to devote to getting me to meet with him. So he was just really persistent on meeting with me every week, hanging out, talking. And he kind of helped me unpack my love for leadership and wanting to lead people. So then I told Ryan Groom, who is Shane's boss, I'll come to, or I'll sell books again if I can come to GRS too. And he was like, okay. And then I went, and then I sold books again. So.
Yeah, GRS 2. Is that still in New Orleans? Was that New Orleans that year?
No, it was in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was really
that's
cool.
A good GRS at the Hard Rock?
No, I don't remember honestly, but it was during St. Patrick's Day, so the river was green. And yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah, GRS2 is always during St. Patty's, and you gotta love it. I had one in Chicago, and then we had one in NOLA.
Mhm.
Oh man, NOLA from Mardi Gras is bananas. It was
Yeah,
crazy during St. Patty's. It was crazy,
yeah,
but
that's what went this year.
yeah, that's so fun. That now, okay, so now the recruiting aspect is where you really excelled. I mean, you sold well and you had your growth, and that's solid. But you were even before the show aired, we were talking in the back room, and you were saying about how like recruiting was kind of where your heart really lied. So it seems like that was where you were really like exploded and were able to come to. You mentioned earlier in the episode that you were very confident in college until you were through college. So do you think that's what helped you kind of gain a lot of that confidence? And how did you shape up to be such a good leader? Because I mean, I'm going to run through these stats again. You had the number 7 org in your last summer, which is again,
Mhm.
that's testament to your leadership skills for people who are listening who maybe don't understand what that means. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And you recruited a top 10 first year, which you don't accidentally do that. I mean, a lot of it is on the first year, but you have a lot of say and leadership in that molding of that first year. Again, example is where you went to Delaware and your roommate didn't know how to tell you to do your maps, right? A lot of your first summer can really be determined by how well the leadership is. So you clearly hit your stride with leadership. What worked for you? How did you grow into that?
Yeah, well, I think seeing other people do well was awesome as a leader, and having a direct impact on that. So my second summer, so I decided to come back in March, and then in by the time I signed up and like was actually gearing up to leave for the summer, it was already April. So I was like, shit, like I'm leaving next month. Like I gotta, I gotta figure something out. And Alex, he was like, okay, well, now that you're coming out, like you should try to recruit somebody. And I was like, oh my god, okay, how? I don't know. And the only way I knew how was to post on Facebook, because I like I didn't pay attention to GRS. I didn't want to do the in school thing. I actually never really got into in schooling. That's another piece of advice I'd give anyone listening right now is recruit earlier than I did. Like do it in school, because I waited till I was out of school to really dive into recruiting. But um, I signed up somebody through Facebook. So
Let's go.
yeah, Trevor Gritton Adkins. I guess it's just Trevor Gritton now. He just changed his name. But he's going on his 5th summer this year. So, and he's married to another book girl. We can talk about that as well. But he worked with me at Waterworld, and he saw my post. It was just like a generic, want to make money and get out of your comfort zone, like call me. So he called me. I didn't even have his number saved. He left a message and was like, hey, I saw your post. Like we weren't really that good of friends. So it was one of those, I was surprised he called me, but I was like, hey, Alex, yeah, this guy called me and I think he wants to hear about it. So I was at nationals for diving in April. So I actually ran my first info over Zoom or Skype before the pandemic. So it was my first info ever. It was literally my first info I ever ran, and it was over Skype, like in 2018. So if that's a testament, like the first info I ever ran recruited a 5 summer bookman. It was cool.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah,
Now, oh Skype, what an
yeah.
old-fashioned
It
sentence.
was so bad. My info was terrible. I was in Georgia, like getting ready to go to a meet, and then Trevor, um, he came out that summer, and he was a top first year. I think he sold more than I did my first summer. It was like 1,700 units, I think.
Crushing it,
Yeah,
crushing it. And so the summers roll on. Is it? You said like every summer you weren't sure you wanted to come back.
yeah.
Where did you go? Where did you go to number 2?
Where did I go number 2? That's a weird question to ask. I went to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, just shit all over Pennsylvania. So, and Pennsylvania is a lovely place to sell. I sold in Pennsylvania, my number 3.
Yeah.
My number 3 was in Pennsylvania, but
Yes.
that's a
There
good
you
time.
go.
I was near Philly, near Allentown. Good
Mhm.
time, good time. Where
Oh,
did you go?
cool. I was in Pittsburgh actually, and my second and my 5th summer, I lived with the same host mom. So that was
Oh, that's trippy.
yeah, that was fun. She was the best. And actually Crystal and Justin are going to live with her this year.
Nice. Yeah, because they're going to Pittsburgh this year. That's
Mhm.
Danny's org. Danny's
Yeah.
org's going that direction.
She was the best. Sue, I should have sent this to her. I will send her the link to this. But Sue Krisnick, she we found her at a church, and my roommate, she was a first year. She was by herself. She like went to this church, made an announcement, and Sue just raised her hands like, I'll do it. And it was
Nice.
the most mom I've ever had.
Yeah, for people listening who don't understand how crazy that is sometimes you get sent out to the summer and there is no living situation set up for you. So it's literally like, hey guys and gals, we're going to Pennsylvania. All right. Okay. And there's going to be HQs is what we call homes, the homes that we live in, and we live with host parents.
Mhm.
So basically, long story short, it's Thursday of sales school. So like the first week of May. And it's like, all right, there's going to be 10 different HQs for this org of 20 people, right? 2 people to an HQ or whatever. And so you four, this is the address of your home for the summer. Congratulations. See you there. Bye. You six. We don't have anything for you. So the first thing we're going to do when we get there is we're going to knock the cobwebs out by knocking on doors. And instead of selling books, we're going to say, hey, we're here for the summer. Got a place we could stay? And then if that doesn't work, we also will go to local churches and go to their pastor and or lead worship person and say, explain the situation, tell them what you're going to be doing this summer. You go make an announcement. This is how I found my first host mom, my first summer in New York, upstate New York. And you go, hey, we're here for the summer. You explain the situation, and hopefully some good Samaritan, literally some good Samaritan will go, I have a spare bedroom for you guys, or I know. And that's what happened to you, which literally is a crazy aspect of this job. It's really fun too. Honestly, it's a cool way of living life because you're like on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
But it's wild that's how it happened. So that's what your first year did. And that's how you found this lady.
Yeah, and that my first summer, same thing. So my first summer, we found them the same way, and then this last summer, or my second summer, but it was just the eagerness of Sue to just raise her hand. I'll do it. Like, oh, 'cause she lived by herself in a house that had 2 bedrooms. Like, it was a perfect setup, cheap. Like, she was like our grandma, basically. Like, I'll text her after this. Like, I have her number. I'd go visit her again. Like, she's amazing, and she's hosting Crystal and Justin this year, and they're gonna have the best HQ in their entire org.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so fun. And then you grew into this leader. And so what kept happening as you went along through your summers that like kind of helped you get like, how do you recruit a top org? How does that work?
So my second summer was definitely the craziest summer I've ever had. There was a lot of stories to go into, probably for another time, but overall,
it's your call.
Yeah, overall, my second summer, just the main lesson I learned was because I went to school for psychology, and through my second summer, I realized that I put a lot of myself into other people's emotions, which I'm learning how to actually get away from because you can be empathetic to a fault, and I was to a fault where I kind of put responsibility on other people's either summers, feelings, and at some point, I forgot to take care of myself in my own summer. Like, I ruined my own summer, I think, my second summer, because I was so worried about the situations happening in the orgs. That summer, we had 9 people get into car accidents. So it was just like, it was a crazy, and some of them were more serious than others. And so it was just like a lot of shit. And Shane, like, he won Adversity OL of the Year that year. Like, we had a really tough summer situation wise that year, and I was a B contract, so me being thrown into that and dealing with situations that I think honestly most book people never have has taught me that psychology was not the path for me, which is kind of funny, but it weirdly motivated me because it was really tough. But that summer dealing with all of those things, especially like the bigger ones, really just taught me, okay, I need to step back and reevaluate what I want to do with my life, because I had this path for 20 years and then it suddenly was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this thing I've been going to school for my whole life. So I went through that. And then I think just kind of like, but that summer, and it was really tough for me, but Trevor still had a great summer. Like, they're at Alex, it was Alex, and then anyone that knows Damon Aragon and Trevor, Gritton Adkins, and then also this guy named David Hetherington. They all were super positive, had a great HQ. All of them were top first years. Like, that HQ was great. And Trevor was really positively impacted by the summer. even if I wasn't, but that gave me like joy. Okay, because Trevor, his second year was really Sammy Southwestern. Like he was one of the top in school. Like he put in more stats than a lot of full timers did recruiting wise. So that
Wow.
kind of, yeah, he was like the top in school stat guy. His results weren't there at the time, but just seeing him put so much into it was like, okay, I should probably put some into it too. But then that next summer, actually, I didn't even recruit anybody. So I kind of went backwards, and Trevor went ahead of me, and he was at OL and I wasn't. And that was the kind of a gut punch. Like,
Whoa, that
yeah,
hurts.
my
That hurts.
recruit was doing better than me. But then that's my third summer. I don't know if you had questions jumping into this. That's
No,
kind
go for it. Hey, it's your mic, girl. And we're just having chat. We're just chatting over some drinks.
of that, and there's
So
just so
we can go wherever you want. It's all good. I mean, I
yes.
do want to ask at some point about your Bumble
Oh,
abilities, but we'll talk about that,
we'll
whenever
get
that comes
there.
up. Yeah.
We'll get there for sure. But my third summer, I actually I didn't work with Trevor because he was OLing with Alex or AOLing with Alex Har, and I was put into a week before I left for the summer. I was put into a different org all of a sudden because I didn't have any first year, so they needed like a girl somewhere else. So I was actually put with Jacob Flores, and so I didn't know any of them. Like I was very a newbie to them. A lot of them thought I was really like kind of a bitch when I first met them because I met them at sales school and I'm like pushing really hard and they're just like, "Who are you? Like you don't even know us." So,
Shout out to J Flow though.
yeah, for sure. Shout out to J Flow. And that summer, it was kind of the opposite of my second summer, where his org actually he had a pretty tough year that year. Like I think he recruited like 10 people and his best friends, and all of his best friends quit, and a couple other people on his team. But my HQ was doing really well, so it was me and then Hunter Dow, for anyone that knows her, and then Melissa Perigo, and we had a killer HQ, and we were dominating everyone else, and so that was fun. Um, yeah, that was a fun time for all of us.
And that was 2019, right?
Yes, that was that was New York, so that was 2019.
Ooh, we're in New York.
I worked in a town called Dutchess County, which was I just texted Sione too about this, but Dutchess County is called Arlington School District. So I think it was like an hour and a half north of the city, so it was still kind of country.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, near Watertown and Poughkeepsie and in that area. Yeah, I love
yes,
that. Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful up there too. Man, New York is so cool. I love New York. New York, the state is amazing.
it was
And
awesome.
that was my best summer too. So I don't
Oh,
know.
really?
Yeah, but at this point, your sales are probably or crushing it because you're doing really, really well, right? Like, have you figured something out at this point, sales wise, when you were
So
saying you
I
had a power HQ?
actually my first, second, third summers, I only increased like 300 units. So it was honestly my sales. I wouldn't really ever consider crushing it. I guess like I never did. Honestly, like I was not the best salesperson per se, but I was likable and positive and could lead people well. I think so. That
Yeah.
kept around for a while.
Hey, now that works. That's more important. You're
Yeah.
influencing people and you're changing people's lives. That's huge.
In retrospect, yes. At the time, I was very hard on myself about it. But yeah, I missed Sizzler that year actually. So I like that was tough. My third summer, because the HQ was doing really well, and I was kind of like I was doing okay, and I did better than my last summer, but like not great. Like I was not awesome. So that was actually really tough. Was missing Sizzler with my roommates that year.
Mm.
And missing it with the org that survived the bomb that was James' org then.
Rough,
Yeah,
rough.
rough
It's rough.
times.
And then we go into 2020, and this is when things go from good to great.
Yes, yeah, 2020 was insane. So, the beginning of 2020, I actually moved. So I had always wanted to move out of Colorado, but I finally, like in January, this kind of I didn't even tell you this, Andres, but I got put to recruit at a new school with TD. So I was actually recruiting with Matt Ross and their organization, and I was kind of like, I want to move somewhere else that's not Colorado. Like I want to not recruit here. And so I moved to New Mexico with a couple people from the New Mexico team, and we opened up a new school, which is still going, which is cool, but it's a TD school now. But I got to help open that up before the pandemic hit.
Oh, baby.
Yeah.
Good old flu.
Good old flu, yeah.
The good old bat flu of 2020
Mm-hmm.
or so, it seems.
Yeah.
Wild. And so then how did that actually walk me through that? Because I think you're the first, I think besides Naomi, I think you're the first person that we've had. Well, not the first. We've had probably other people, but in your perspective, what was it like when that flu, when the pandemic hit, and how did it shift everything, right? Like, because you guys had started doing Zoom calls to start out that summer, and like, what was that like?
Yeah, so that's the first year they introduced virtual sales school. To be honest, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I really liked online recruiting and online, not selling, but online. The shift into online, I think, has been awesome. And I mean, I work remote now, so it kind of worked itself out. But I think the company did a great job of not instilling panic into us. I really appreciated that. And I know behind the scenes now, like they were freaking out. But to us, they were just like, we're going to figure it out. It's going to be fine. Like, we still have a summer. We're going to find a way. And in retrospect, I think that really helped everyone. Because Shane had actually started, him and Jake Chesney both had really started doing online recruiting before COVID happened. So they were kind of the pioneers in online recruiting for the whole company. And since Shane was my boss, or I guess manager, whatever, he really helped us learn how to online recruit even before COVID happened. So it was not a huge transition. I moved back to Colorado to finish, or no, I actually moved to Arizona because I was having some issues. The guy I lived with in TD, he's great and I love him. We just didn't live well together and work well together. And so better friend than coworkers. So I moved away in Arizona. I don't even know how I ended up here the first time, but it was just like I didn't want to live at home, and someone else had a room open in Arizona, and I was like, I'm not going to go anywhere, so I'll just move there for a month and do online recruiting from my house. And that's where I recruited. I recruited three people. One of them finished. Graciela. I hope she's watching this. Graciela Casada. I brought her from New Mexico, and her story is really cool. Her story is really cool too. So I think I made a lasting impact, which helped me a lot with that.
That's sweet. That's sweet. And then you go off to the summer, and then you hit Sizzler.
Yeah.
So this is the summer that you had some success there with the recruiting as well, right? You had in 2020 you had the best summer of sales. Then also your team started to really pick up, right?
Yeah. So that was a team. I never recruited big teams, but just people that produced well, I guess. But yeah, that summer I recruited Graciela, and she came with me. She almost didn't come out, but she did, and I'm really glad. She's now engaged to Lane Serrato, and she moved, like her whole life really changed. So it was just cool to see that. But that summer we did virtual sales school, and that was really interesting because no one had ever done it before. We had virtual GRS2, which they figured out, like the company did, in literally 10 days. They like switched all of it to online. And then we got to the summer, and it was awesome. Like I had a great summer. I was in Kentucky.
Ting.
Mm-hmm.
What a place. Kentucky's a wild place, man.
It's awesome. Jacob Meyer just called me and was like asking me about turf, and I was literally like 2 minutes before you and I hopped on, and I was just like, you're gonna have the best summer. Like that place was my favorite by far.
Heck yeah. Now here we go. Hold on. Abraham Guerrero, Maverick Cole, and Lane Serrato all say hello to you.
Oh, hello.
Is this the Bumble story?
Oh yeah. So Lane is a part of that. Yeah. I'd say Trevor and Vivian were the first couple, and then Lane and Graciela were the second.
You set up two married couples?
Yeah, well, Lane and Graciela are not married yet, but they will be in November.
That's wild. So listen, if you're a single person watching and you need to get married, then what you need to do is you need to get recruited by Maddie to do something, whether it's selling books or somewhere, and then
Yes.
somehow you'll end up being married. So that's
Super
wild.
cute.
That's wild. That's actually pretty insane. Because here's the thing: they're gonna have children.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe if they choose to, right?
They
Assuming
will.
that it goes
Vivian's
traditionally,
ready.
how people normally get married. And if there are children, there will be children on this earth because you did that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
and that kept me going for a while, honestly, because like Trevor, because Vivian actually, whenever she's an alumni, she used to sell for Dynasty, and then she switched over to Olympus, and so like I met her when she was selling under. Well, her student manager Craig Soder actually passed away, so she didn't. She was kind of a free agent, but she was under Jake for a while, and then she moved over to ours, and then her and Trevor met, and now they're married.
Look at you go, you and the Bumble, and you had Sizzler,
Yeah.
and then this is the Sizzler.
Yeah. Well, even before that, I was in right after the summer.
Should we share this? Should we share
Yeah.
that story? Can we share this story? Okay, so this is a crazy story. And then after that, I mean, we still got more stories if you want to share, but
That's okay.
I mean, we need that ponytail story.
Yes.
Is that what's coming up after this?
Yeah, they both. This one helps lead into the other one because.
Okay, so before we get into that last one, we'll do one more shout out to some of our friends, some of alumni friends. But I want to hear this first one, so you can kind of get the sizzle of the steak that's coming in this crazy story.
Yeah, so it's funny because I still haven't tested positive for COVID, but I've spent more time than I'd like to admit in the hospital, different hospitals. So after after that summer, it was a great summer. Like I was really stoked. Hit Sizzler again after not hitting it the last year. I was really excited. And then during like when I was driving to check in, I noticed these bug bites on my leg. And I was like, oh, like I get pretty prone to bug bites. So like I didn't really think much of it, but like I get bites pretty bad. So I noticed them and they were like itchy and they didn't feel good. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. I'll just like put some cream on it. Hopefully it works. And then the next day, they were just like big rashes. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on. And I had seen a doctor in Kentucky right before. Oh, because that actually, I saw the bites before I drove to check in, but it was only 2 hours from Kentucky. So I got this medication that the doctor gave me. And so it was like an antibiotic. So I thought it would help it. And each day is passing by and it's getting bigger and it's getting more like itchy and red. And I'm just like, what's going on? To be honest, I think I got it from peeing outside during delivery week. That we're gonna be real there. I think that's where it started. Yeah. So I was just like, I'm supposed to be checking out, feeling good about my summer, and I can't even drink because like I'll get a bigger rash. And I was just really uncomfortable the entire check-in, and I was wearing like long pants. I don't think a lot of people even know about this that I know. And then my extended family lives in Indiana. So I had a plan to drive up there after check-in to go see them before I drove home. So I'm still feeling like my leg is not doing well. Like it's itchy and I'm just not feeling good. And the drive up there, I was starting to feel a little lightheaded. So I probably shouldn't have, like, it was just not good. But I get there and I'm just like not in my best shape because I'm fresh out of the summer feeling pretty sick at this point. So the next morning after I got there, I like went to breakfast with my family and I passed out almost at the table. And I was like, hey, Sean, my cousin, I was like, Sean, I don't want to freak anyone out, but like, I think I need to go to the emergency room. Like, I am not feeling well. He's like, okay. And so, of course, my family's a bunch of warriors. So they were freaking out. Like, oh my God, you okay? And so my aunt drives me to the hospital. It's still 2020. So I'm in like a special, not COVID unit.
Oh gosh, that's true.
And I couldn't have any visitors except for my aunt. and they had to keep me overnight for 3 days because they weren't sure if I had Lyme disease. So they took like 10 vials of blood and all these blood tests, and all of them came back negative. So they actually don't know what happened. What they think it was an allergic reaction to some medication that I took. So it's a safe enough assumption to where they're like, okay, you can just tell doctors you're allergic to that. And it went away after they gave me a different medication, but they don't actually know what the cause of that was. But yeah, that was the end of my summer. And my mom actually flew out to drive home with me after that because I was in the Indiana hospital for like 3 days.
So we have an image of that time. Let's see if we can pop this into
Yeah.
right. Isn't this the screen? Let's add this to the screen if we can. Go for
me in
it.
the mirror. Yeah. So that was the first one. That was me. Just like, of course, after a great summer, I'm just in the hospital dying.
Look at you, just chilling.
Yeah.
That's a book person in the hospital.
Exactly.
Sup?
Awesome.
Oh, that's epic.
Yeah.
That's epic. Okay, so then you go to Sizzler. Okay, but now it's time. Now it's time for the ponytail. This is the story. I've heard some of the gist of this story. As we get into this, I want to give one last shout out to some of our friends, and then we'll tell this pony story, and then we can wrap this up. First off, shout out to VDisain. So as I mentioned before, guys, our merch store is either going to be this Sunday or Thursday. We have to finalize everything, but we have merch available, and it's going to be. You guys can get the link soon. It's gonna be exciting. Are you gonna get the sweatshirt or the hat, Maddie? That's the question.
I like sweatshirts. I'm in Arizona now, but I like sweatshirts.
They come in crop top sweatshirts, so you can get one of them too. Naomi's got one of those. But if you guys own a business and you want to have an effective presence online, you guys got to reach out to Oscar and Oliver. They're 2 alumni. We only partner with people who are alumni. They can build you a website. So instead of paying $25 to $50K like we should have, $25,000 to $50,000 we should have paid for our website, we actually got it for a huge discount because we work with VDisain, and that includes our store is going to be in there. Everything, all our episodes and everything is going to live in there. You can interact with us and reach out to us, become a guest that way. Also, sign up for BIZZLER, a bunch of different stuff that you can do through our website. And so they helped us with all those integrations. Shout out to you guys. Love you lots. Also, a big shout out to EnLight.Energy. They are doing a great job of having a solid passion for the planet while helping people save money. And so if you're like Nick Taverdi, where you want to Nick's doing a great job making I was going to say shit ton of money there, but he's doing pretty good for himself. Actually, he's making quite a bit of money there. And so you can join him and Julio Hernandez at EnLights. They sell, if you have one sale every other week, you have actually a 6-figure income, which is pretty cool. And they have the ability to work with people in pretty much every state. So make sure you guys get in touch with us so we can get you in touch with them. You're helping people save money in that front. And last but not least, one more shout out to Greta and Quentin at Cardinal. They are helping people have a lot of flexibility and not be captive to their clients. A lot of jobs have flexibility, but it's still flexibility based on how their clients are. And so if you want to actually have that flexibility, you can reach out to them. Because of the demographic that they serve, it's easy to turn leads and make the agents work at the schedule that they want to work. So it's pretty cool. Greta, for example, took time a couple of weeks ago. She went to Mexico for like 9 days and then came back and made 10 grand. And then her stud agent that she recruited, John Cabrera, followed up his best week with 2 back-to-back weeks of $6,500K and then $8K. So it's pretty sweet. Pretty awesome stuff there. If you guys are listening and you thought about leaving your job and you looked around for another job, if you're happy with like the freedom and flexibility that you have your current job, give these guys a call or don't. They don't really give a shit. They're going to crush it with or without you, but just, they would rather do it with you. So reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with them as well. So now, Maddie, you ready for this? We have pictures attached. So just let us know when we should share the pictures and we'll make it happen, because this is, I feel like the short version of the story. Yeah. But I haven't heard like the detailed version. So I'm hoping to get like the big one. I want to get the details here. Mike is yours. This is a Sizzler story for the ages.
Yeah, this is the biggest Sizzler story in a while. Yeah, so I guess, do you have any questions leading up to it, or just kind of tell the whole story?
I mean, it's your call. You can. I say the whole story so we could have it on record somewhere that it lives,
Okay.
and so that way, if people ask you about it, you could just refer them to the episode. You know what I'm saying?
Fair, yeah. So short synopsis, I broke my hip at Sizzler. So there we go. We'll start
There we
there.
go.
Yes, that's probably what you've heard, but how? So it happened in the middle of the trip. So luckily, I still had like 2 full days of Sizzler, which honestly probably contributed to the third day. But so it happened on the third day. So the first day I get there, and I like couldn't. I was house sitting the night before, so it was having a really hard time sleeping. So I kind of went into Sizzler doing the whole like not sleeping until 2 nights after. Really stupid, but that's how I started the trip, was no sleep. And so I'm
Oh
there,
man.
just like I bought these like friendship bracelets that I was gonna give to a lot of people. So I was like giving away friendship bracelets to people that had never. They were like the snap bracelets, people I'd never met before. I'm like, hey, like I was kind of just not any sleep, just trying to stay awake. And I was people that hadn't met me were like, "Are you okay?" Like you're a little out there right now. Like I hadn't had any drinks yet. I was just trying to stay awake and be really hyper. And then we went. I forgot where did we? I was wearing. I forget. I was wearing like a white outfit. I remember what I was wearing, but I forgot where we went. Um. Oh, I guess it was just like a club night the first night at the resort. Um. So we did that. It was fun. I had a great time, and then the next day,
Oh, no sleep.
seriously, because I think I woke up at like 8 o'clock. I just couldn't sleep because you're like Sizzler. I gotta enjoy all the activities. So that day, I just stayed at the hotel all day. While I was gonna go to the booze cruise that day, and then I woke up and I was like, I don't know if I want to go today. Like there was that was the big day and I didn't want to go with like a lot of people. So I was like, hey, someone can switch me. I'll go on the day that it's only 30 people versus 150. So I stayed at
Yes.
the hotel all day and that was a really fun day. Like we rode the banana boat that like sped really fast in the water and I fell and I like hit my head. Like I was just not treating my body well. I like fell really hard off the banana boat and playing volleyball and drinking beer all day. Um, and then that night was when we went to Mandala, where we're going back for BIZZLER. So I'm
We're going
happy.
back for revenge. We're going
Yes,
back for revenge.
I'm excited to go back when I'm not like broken. Um, but that night was just crazy. Like to be honest, I don't really remember much of that night. Like I went pretty hard that night with drinks, and that
As is the norm at Sizzler. I mean,
yeah,
that's normal. Everybody else.
for me,
You and
like
the whole army.
well, I don't normally black out like sometimes, but not really often. So that was just like I don't think I blacked out either way. I just drank a lot more than normal, even for me on Sizzler. So I was just like crazy. And then I remembered halfway through the night, oh, I have to go to the booze cruise tomorrow at 8 in the morning again. So I woke up then, another like 3 hours of sleep, and the booze cruise, I think that I sent the picture. I was so hungover. And I found out then that I get seasick. So that
There
booze
you
cruise
go.
was awful.
Is that
Shout
it?
out- That's Baird Marshall. Yes, that was me on the booze. I look happy. I was dying. I was hungover, and
Oh
I'd
no.
thrown up so much before that. Like I was just throwing up on the side of the boat. Luckily, there was only like 30 people on the boat, so it was like not everybody saw me, but I couldn't tell at the time that I was seasick. I thought I was just hungover and just throwing up, but it was a combination of that plus seasickness because I went on a boat again for Vivian's bachelorette in September and I got seasick then and I was completely sober. So it was just a combination of being seasick and hungover. So that was the day leading up to this accident. So that I just wanted to paint the picture of like I was on the booze cruise. And that particular day, the booze cruise was 3 hours longer than the day before. So
Oof.
my plan was to get back to the resort at 5, chill a little bit, and then we had a group dinner that night, We literally got there at 7:30. The dinner was at 7, so I had to like run
Whoops.
to my room, change. Luckily, they hadn't left yet. I'm like, Shane, like I haven't even left. I should have sent the group picture of everyone all dressed up, and Vivian and I just like in our swimsuits still from the booze cruise. But like it's literally a 12-hour booze cruise. Like it was so long of being seasick and hungover. And then we go to a group dinner. And Vivian and I had to get ready and take a separate taxi because everybody had already left. But we get there and Shane's like, drinks are on me. And we're like, of course.
Great.
So, yeah, at this point, I barely drank on the booze cruise because I was feeling so sick. So I was like, finally, okay, I feel better. I can drink a little bit now. Mistake. So I drank, I think, like 3 vodka Red Bulls. And
it was at this moment that Maddie realized she fucked up.
Exactly. So we're at this group dinner. That dinner was really fun, honestly. Like that, I mean, that menu was really great. And I loved it. It was a blast. Shane bought food for everybody. Like it was just a really fun dinner. After being seasick all day, I was like, finally, like I can eat, I can drink. It's fun. And then the club we went to was La Vaquita. We'll never ever go back there. Like anyway, I just there was a lot I think they contributed that I didn't realize until later on. Both times I've been there for Sizzler, like it was not a good time. Anyway, I have a vendetta against La Vaquita. So
we're
sorry.
not going there for BIZZLER, it sounds like.
No. If I can help choose the clubs, we're not going there. So sorry to everyone that loves that place. That's where it all happened. Anyway, so we could walk from dinner to the club. So that's what we did. We get to the club, and this is Heritage Night. So everybody's dressed up in like either Mexican flags or American flags or Colombian flags. Like everybody's wearing their own heritage stuff. Yeah, go Colombia. Yeah. And I was wearing this like American flag pashmina thing, and that was important. I might have slipped on it. I actually don't even know. But the thing about La Vaquita is they tried to fit too many people in a small space. Like that club is not big enough for how many people we have. And like there's elevated surfaces. So they have like, I don't even know what they're called, but when you go and you stand on the bar and like girls can dance on them and stuff, like I don't know what those are called, but that
it's just like some places have cages, right? Some places this is like a platform, right? That you kind of like raise on. Yeah. Exactly. I know what you're talking about. It's like you've seen it in movies. If you ever seen a movie where people are like at club somewhere tropical or whatever, there's like the girls, and then that's where they have the wet t-shirt contests where I'm sure you did not partake, or nobody on the group partook on that ever in Sizzler.
Never. But that one, I don't even think you could. Like, it was just not a big club. Like, it's smaller than Mandala or Cocobongo or any of those. And then they also had cocktail tables that were all around the sides. And since there were so many of us, there were tons of people dancing on these tables, which this is the part that gets me, is I'm the only one that like hurt myself, but everyone, like a lot of people fell off of them. So I'm dancing on this table, and I know vividly Leslie Chapp was behind me. Like I know for a fact that she was there. I don't remember anyone else there. I don't know who witnessed it. I like a lot of that kind of escaped my memory, and I don't know how to do it without like I guess so we're dancing on the table. It's like a long ways, but it's a standing height. So it goes up to here on most people, and it's not like a sitting one. So we're standing on the standing table, but it's really wobbly. And this is the thing I had the problem with La Vaquita, is they should not have like been letting us do that. And I don't know if that's like an all of Mexico thing, or I don't know.
It's bad management here at this spot. Who knows?
Just like I know that in a club here, they would tell us to get down basically. So it was like, and now I know it's for a reason. We're standing on this. There's literally 4 girls on this one table, and it's wobbly. And so I was on the edge. So I was like right here, and there was like 3 girls behind me. And so what happened is just a misstep. So my right foot slipped off and my left foot stayed on. So I basically hit the table like this. Yeah, so luckily, well, I don't want to say luckily, but if you were a guy, like your nads would be gone. Like you wouldn't be having.
There go your children.
Children gone. Like I slammed it hard, but I I wasn't drunk at the time. I was buzzed though. So I didn't really like the sensation I would compare it to is like stubbing your toe, where it really hurts in the moment, but then if you walk it off, like it will get better. So I fell.
Oh,
And the other part of this story a lot of people don't know is I also thought I broke my ankle. Like I really hurt my left ankle, and the doctors thought it broke too, but it didn't. But I sprained my ankle really bad. So I basically hit my left ankle on the ground, sprained it, and then fell after I'd like hit. People keep like they make fun, they the joke is that I broke my vagina or broke my butt. That's the joke. Like that's what it was just unfortunate placement and an unfortunate accident. But when I
oof.
fell, everyone looked at me like, "Oh God, are you okay?" And I was like,
Oh,
"Okay." Like that, they were like, "Oh man!" But then I got up and I was like, "I'm fine, whatever." And so I thought I could walk it off. So the problem, or like I think what happened, is that I walked on it for like 4 hours before I finally went to the
oh,
hospital. So it wasn't like an instant, "Oh shit, I broke my body. I need to like stop walking on it." Like I didn't think that it was as bad as it was. I thought it'd be like a toe where you hit it and it's like, ow, but then you walk it off and it feels better after a little bit. Um, and then I get to, so I'm walking or like, I'm starting to like get reoriented, walk around, and I'm noticing that it's not getting better. And I'm like, okay, maybe, I don't know. So I go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom and Avery Housley's in there. So shout out
shout
to
out to
Avery.
Avery. Yeah.
Because it wasn't something I could just like, hey, Johnny, is my arm okay? Like I couldn't see it, so I basically had to like pull down my pants
Oh
and be like,
no.
Avery, can you look at my butt and tell me if it's okay? And she looked at it and was like, nope, not okay.
What a
But she's
quote.
also drunk, so it's like everyone's drunk trying to diagnose me if I'm okay or not. So
Oh.
Avery's the first person that saw it, but shout out to her. Love you. But she's
Was it
like,
just
no.
bruised or what happened?
It was so we'll get there. So um
Oh.
so I'm walking, like I'm starting to limp a little, and I was like, I think because the clubs during COVID were open earlier and closed earlier. So we were like there. This happened at like 11 p.m., which on normal Sizzler hours would be probably 2 a.m. Like the club closed, I
Right.
think, 1 or 2 in the morning. So at midnight, I finally am like, okay, no, I'm not doing well. Like I need to go home and sleep. So when I first noticed something was really wrong is when I couldn't sit in the taxi. So I found two first years that wanted to go home early too. So it was me and two of the first years, Mason and Malia, that were just like sitting in this taxi. But I couldn't sit at a 90-degree angle like this because it hurt so bad. I had to sit in the taxi like
Mm.
with my just sitting like this really awkwardly in the back seat because I couldn't bend my body enough to sit down because like I bruised right where I sat it, like sit. So then this story is so long. I know you said you wanted the full story.
It's your call how you want to tell it. This is,
It's
but I'm
okay.
like just going through. It hurts me right now. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
it was rough. So we get back to the hotel and I see Vivian because she didn't go out that night. So my friend Vivian, who's married to Trevor, now I was like, Vivian, get me some ice. But she had no context. Like I knew I needed ice, but she had no context of why I needed ice. So she's like, okay, like I'll message Trey. And it turns out that he was dealing with like someone possibly getting arrested at the same time. So,
Sizzler, baby, yeah,
so
let's go.
like I should have been the priority, but no one really knew that at first because like we didn't think it was as bad as it was. Like I thought it was just like a slip and fall and hit myself. So I get to the room and one of my roommates, Kelsey, is in there, and Kelsey's like sleeping because she didn't go out either. And I was like, hey, Kelsey, can you look at my butt? Like, and she's like, yeah. So at this point, it's black. Like, it's black. I can't even show you the picture because it's like not in the good spot, but if you know me personally and want to see it, like whatever, I'll send it to you. But it's
It's a
just like,
behind the scenes look.
yes, it's a behind the scenes picture, but it's black.
Literally behind the scenes.
Well, it's like underneath. Like
It's underneath the scenes, behind the scenes.
yeah,
You
it was
understand?
just like, yeah, it was bad. So she's like,
Oh, dude.
yeah, that's
Oh.
bad. And I was like, okay. So I'm laying in bed and I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should, what I should do. And then Trey comes in probably like an hour later. But the issue with that was that I couldn't really show Trey.
Yeah, I know.
that it's
Bless
so
Trey. Trey's such a nice guy too. You can't like, it's like
Trey and
how do I
Melanie
say this?
deserve so many awards for helping me with this. Like, I will forever be in debt. They saved my life, like literally. But Trey, it was so funny because him and I are both deciding like it's a medical thing. Like, it's not like any other thing, but it's just the place. So we were both like going back and forth on if I should show him for like like 30 minutes. It was so
Poor
funny.
Trey's like, no.
He's like, yeah, but I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. And then he's like, wait, I could call Melanie. I was like, yes. So Melanie comes in and I'm like, okay, I'll show Melanie, so I show Melanie and she's like, yeah, that's not good either. And I was like, oh, okay, everyone's saying that. I can't see it. In retrospect, I should have just had a picture right there, but I didn't. So at this point, it's like 3 a.m, and I'm like so tired because I was hungover the whole morning. I was seasick on that booze cruise. I'd only slept like 6 hours the 3 days before that. So at this point, like all I wanted to do was sleep. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna try to sleep. And then I couldn't, and I was like, okay, this is too bad. I need to go to the hospital. So shout out to Nayeli as well. She found a tourist hospital that treated dumbasses like me that were like white people that were injured, basically. So
white people with black asses.
yes. So she got me to a bilingual hospital, which wasn't that bilingual, to be honest, but it was like she got me to this hospital.
But neither were you. So, it's all fair.
Yeah, and then they took like I was so out of it at this point that they were taking x-rays of my hip, and then they started taking x-rays of my ankle, and I was not sure why they were taking x-rays of my ankle. Like, I didn't even find out that I had hurt my ankle until the hospital because I was just so focused on my leg or my
you
hip.
Probably couldn't even feel it. Like, it's one of those where it's like
Nope.
that major pain where it's like my leg, and he breaks his finger and he's like, my finger. He goes, works every time. Take that pain away from the leg.
Exactly.
You don't have to worry about a sprained ankle if your hip's fractured. So
exactly. Well, they thought I
broke
my ankle too, so they were like just taking x-rays. And when I first got admitted, I was like, oh wow, I'm gonna be here for a day and go back on crutches, whatever. The doctor comes back in and he's like, there's debate about what he said, but basically he's like, yeah, there's a chip in your hip and like you're not leaving. And I was like, oh, awesome, great. So at this point I'm like really pissed because I wanted to sleep. Now I was missing the rest of Sizzler. I thought it was only gonna be for a day. Shane comes in, he's consoling me because at that time, like, a fear of missing out was a big thing that I was dealing with. So I was just like I worked so hard to get here this year because I didn't make it last year. And then I come this year and then this happens. Like, what the heck? And Shane really helped me that day. He was just consoling me, and like no one even knew. Like, a lot of people didn't even find out until after they left Cancun, which was like so
Shit.
like, it was a really good lesson on like how much people like I don't know if you've heard like no one cares about you, but in a good way. It's like I was so focused on my own injury that like people like didn't even notice until I left, which at first sucked, but then it was liberating because it was like, oh, it's actually not as big of a deal as I thought, like that I'm not there at Sizzler.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So we have an x-ray. When should we show these pictures?
Oh, you can show it now.
All right, so let's see if we can find these. We have pictures of you. So this is the x-ray here of
yeah, so that's my right hip bone. So I don't know how to explain it, but basically that chip, that little piece at the bottom shouldn't be separated from the rest of it is the thing. So what happened, actually I'll get into that, but I got a hematoma So do you know what a hematoma is? Or I guess I could.
No idea. I have no clue.
So a hematoma, you can take the picture away now if you want, but a hematoma is it's a class above bruise. So like a bruise, you have blood under your skin and it changes color, but a hematoma is like a bigger clot. Like a hematoma is what happens if you get if someone throws a baseball or like an MLB game and someone throws a baseball at you. Like that's what you would get.
Deep bruise.
Deep. It's not even a bruise. Like it's hard. It's like
it's a hematoma.
Yeah, it's a hematoma. So I got a hematoma like right on the part of the bone where I sit down. So I couldn't sit like for a month basically. So I ended up spending 7 days in the hospital, and that was a whole debacle too, because it was COVID, so you couldn't have visitors, and a lot of the people wanted to visit me, which was super sweet, but they couldn't because they couldn't have big groups, except for Luis Tapia. Shout out to him. He was able to sweet talk like everyone because he speaks Spanish like really fluently, so he's just like sweet talking all of the people to let him upstairs with other people, and him and Vivi Wynn and a bunch of people came and visited me. It was really awesome. But I mean, Melanie is the real angel in this story. She took care of what was cool is that Southwestern Advantage has a accident insurance policy, which I don't even know if a lot of people know about. But if an accident happens, it can be covered up to, I don't know, $25,000. I'm not really sure I don't even know the exact amount, which is why Melanie's so awesome. But it covers you all of the summer and during Sizzler. So that covered my entire medical bill, which was really clutch. Shout out, and for this reason, obviously, but really clutch. But Melanie filled out all the paperwork. She stayed with me a lot of the time at Sizzler. Like she didn't stay at the resort for most of the time. Like she slept in my room a couple of the nights.
Wow.
She flew back with me to Colorado. Like, see, there's so much more to the story. I keep remembering. So it was hard for me to get out of the hospital because one, it was COVID, and they didn't want me to fly back and like hurt myself more, because there was first the decision, do I need surgery? And then I didn't need surgery, thank God. And then it was just a lot of legality and insurance stuff that I couldn't leave. So I ended up being there for 7 days. So after people left Sizzler, I was still there for like another 4 days. That sucked so bad. Everyone's like hungover and done with Sizzler, and like I'm sitting.
Where's all your stuff at this point? Like all your other things you brought with?
Yeah. So Melanie had to go get it from my room. They packed up all my stuff for me. Like Trey and Melanie did. Trey and Melanie stayed with me for a lot of the time that I was there. They both went with me to the hospital. And then Melanie, I had to wait in the hospital probably for 6 or 7 days because I had to wait for a travel nurse to come fly down from America to fly back with me.
Oh.
Melanie was better than the travel nurse. Like we were mad because I was like, Melanie's fine. Like she can handle, like I don't need a nurse. And they like forced me to have a nurse basically with my insurance. But she was, she was the worst. Like I did not like her.
I hope she sees this. Hey lady, you sucked.
She's sitting there on the plane and she's like, yeah, you're going to be bedridden for like 6 months. Like you're going to have a really hard recovery. And I'm like, why would you tell me that? Like,
why now? Why say this now? Shut up. Who asked you, Susan?
Exactly. And she was probably, I'm not even joking, like 80 years old. So
good. She was definitely not a book person, is what it is. No. Clearly. So, okay, we also have pictures of you in the hospital because you were on some medications around Trey Campbell, which is,
my gosh. Yeah, that was the most surreal part. That was the day it happened. Or that was the day after, like when I first woke up after sleeping. And
what a boss. Can we through these, skip through these, see what else we have in here? Because I feel like we have some gold ones.
We'll see. I forgot which ones I sent, to be honest. Oh yeah, that was skydiving in New York with my roommates. My first year. I don't think the
This is-
rest of them. Oh, that was my number 7 org. Shout out to y'all.
Oh, and then that's the other summer. So we only have the two, the X-ray and the piece.
Yeah. Well, I can't show the actual injury. That's the problem. Is
Yeah.
it's X-ray.
Again, if people want to get a hold of Maddie, either for BIZZLER, actually, that's how you can get the pictures. Is you got to sign up for BIZZLER.
Yeah. If you
Is
pay
how you
in
can
full
see.
for BIZZLER, I'll send you a copy.
I'll send you a copy of the pictures.
Yeah. It'd be like nudes.
That's actually the confirmation page. Is congrats, you're coming to BIZZLER. Don't dance on a table while we're there.
It was so bad. But flying, like the pain level wasn't bad in the hospital because I went from being like drunk to buzzed to pumped with Mexican drugs. Like that was because
Not cocaine, for clarity.
No.
Mexican hospital drugs.
Tramadol. It was a powerful narcotic. The first time they gave it to me, because they gave me an IV of it, Trey was there, and I got really high off it, and I was just like, wait, I should not be high in front of Trey. Like, this is really weird. I'm in a hospital. Like, I had to remind myself and self-talk about being in a hospital, because like it's okay because I'm in a hospital, but it just felt like wrong.
Yeah, it's like being drunk in front of your, like, high on around your dad or something. You're like,
exactly.
This is odd.
This is
not that Trey's a dad. Trey's like an older brother, a badass older brother, but you're still
Trey
like,
wasn't scared, but it was just so funny because I'm just like sitting there in my mental state of Trey should not be seeing this. And then yeah, so I was there for 7 days, finally got cleared to go home. And that was the worst part of it all, was actually the flight home. Yeah, that was awful.
Wow. What happened?
So there's a couple more parts to this, actually. It's just the cherry on top. So the flight, they couldn't find a direct flight. So I had to take a connecting flight. The soonest, like if I wanted a direct flight, I have to wait another day in the hospital, which I didn't want to do. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this connecting flight. And then this sounds cool, but it really sucked was that I had to fly first class because I couldn't sit. So even though I was in first class, it was still really painful because I couldn't like bend my body because it was so swollen that I had to like sit awkwardly on a donut. And I was next to my travel nurse, but Melanie couldn't get first class, so she wasn't with me the whole time. Just this nurse that's telling me I'm going to take forever to heal. I'm like, thanks. And that same morning, so I forgot about the thing. I keep remembering stuff about this, but the morning that happened to me, my mom had gotten a hip replacement surgery. Like she had a scheduled hip arthritis type surgery. So
you guys are both like
broken hips, but I didn't want to tell her till after her surgery because I didn't want to freak her out that I was in a hospital in Mexico. And my dad's my stepmom, she's immunocompromised, so I couldn't stay at either of their houses after the surgery because they were worried about COVID. Or after the accident. So I get back to Colorado, and Shane luckily let me quarantine in his house because he and Toria, his wife, had just gone to GRG. So me and then Vivian Larson, she agreed to come watch me, and then Melanie stayed for 2 days because she lives in Florida, but she flew with me to Colorado to stay with me and just like be the emotional support because my parents couldn't. My mom was also crippled, and my dad was protecting his wife, rightfully so. I honestly think that saved me from getting COVID, weirdly enough, because the hospital is so sterile. My roommate ended up testing positive for COVID from Sizzler, so she probably caught it after I had left.
Dude, I remember that because my brother and his org got back, and they all got COVID. Like everybody got COVID. I remember thinking like, why? Come on, guys. Oh, y'all. And this is with the time where it's like not like it's like it was just cool in 2020. It's been 6 minutes, so it wasn't like it was still one of those like, what the fuck? This is the reason why it's gonna take 2 years, y'all, because of y'all. Like no offense, but like all y'all are making us wear masks on airplanes till 2022.
I know. I could, in retrospect, the COVID protocols for Southwestern Advantage should have been stronger, but that's my opinion. But yeah, somehow I didn't that's the one thing I think the good thing that didn't happen was I didn't get COVID, but I was also broken in the hospital, and I So the cherry on top, Andres, that I think it's funny now, but it was hilarious. It was not funny at the time. So the day I get back, I'm quarantining in Shane's house, and I'm on crutches. Like I can barely walk. I left my car at the airport, so they had to drive my car to Shane's house. Um, and so Vivian, she was the one watching me to take care of me. Because she was the only one that like she went to Sizzler and she quarantined and all that. Her car was broken, so she's like, "Hey, can I borrow your car to go get some groceries for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like normally I never let people drive my car. Like I'm very much a kind of a fraidy cat with my car, and I'm like, "No, I'm gonna drive it or no one is" type thing. But the one time I'm crippled and I'm like, I can't move. I'm like, "Yeah, sure." She's going like down the street. She can get groceries. Like I think I'll be okay. I get a call from Melanie. So her and Melanie went to the store together, and I had just taken a tramadol. I'm about to go to sleep. I get a call. "Hey Maddie, where's your registration? Someone hit your car." And I was like,
Oh shit.
the day I got
What
back,
a
I was
week.
like, are you joking? So I at the time I'm high on drugs a little bit. So I'm like, yeah, it's in the console. I don't know. Like I had no reaction to it. But it got hit by a work truck going like 30 miles an hour. So luckily they were okay. Like it was, I mean, they were both talking to me. It was a really, like, Melanie got a little bit of whiplash. She saved me so much and then got into a car accident. Like, she needs a raise. she deserves $1 million after dealing with this. Yeah. So then my car, turns out it got totaled. So a work truck bent the frame of it and totaled the car. So the
God.
timing was good that I needed to get. I mean, I couldn't drive for a month, so it was enough time to find a new car, but also got
Come
totaled.
on.
The day I got back from breaking my it was just like a cherry on top of the whole ordeal. It was just like, really?
It adds to the book of it, the bookness of it.
Yes.
TBM, total book move.
Yes. It was ridiculous.
Badass. And now you're good. Now you can sit. Look at you sitting talking to us.
Yeah, so I healed. The healing process was actually pretty crazy. I can touch on that really quick. I know we're kind of going
Yeah.
long on time here, but
No, do your thing, girl.
one of
Our
the
record is
issues
4 hours, so we're
oh,
not gonna
wow,
break that today. You're
okay.
good.
One of the issues was the Mexican hospital I actually really liked. Like, it was really nice. The food was way better than the hospital I'd stayed in September. Like, I liked the hospital better. Like, they let me sleep. Like, they were really nice. They some of the nurses would just come in and be like, this one for pain. I'm like, cool. So it's just like
Beep, beep,
the
beep, beep.
system that they have there was great. Except the doctor, he was traveling to a bunch of hospitals and didn't speak English very well. So I still don't have any of the records. Like I don't have any of the x-rays. Like I gave him my information. They never emailed anything to me. So I don't have that picture was a picture Melanie took on her phone. Like I did not have the actual x-ray.
Oh.
And so one of the issues was that I actually didn't really know what my injury was until I got back to America and went to an American doctor. And this one was a little wild. So I get to this orthopedic doctor in America and I'm like, finally, I can understand what's going on. And this is a promo to learn Spanish. Like I really need to, because that was a big problem for me. But the doctor walks in and he's like, no, your bone's healed already. And I was like, wait, what? And he basically goes on to tell me that chip in my bone had been there for like 10 years. And I was like, what? I was so confused. It's still a medical mystery. Yeah, he said that chip it's actually healed. Like this is way too healed for it to just happen. So moral of the story, I guess the clickbait title is that I broke my hip at Sizzler, but I actually didn't. I just got a hematoma on the exact location that I somehow broke in the past and didn't know about. You're telling me
That's wild.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Maddie retouched her hip.
Yeah, so I re-hurt the same spot, but I think
It was at a Sizzler 10 years ago when you were a kid, and
I
you
used
fell off
to
the table.
I used to run track a lot, and I learned a lot about anatomy when this happened, but I used to run track in high school, and I was a diver in college. So I did a lot of jumping because I did hurdles. And so what they think happened, again, it's similar to my first hospital story. No one actually knows, but is that my hamstring muscles were way stronger than my bone was like 10 years ago or whenever this happened. And my hamstring muscle, I must have gotten like a hamstring tear and it pulled a piece of the bone off. So they think it happened during a track meet, or I mean, that's probably when it happened. Was like one time when I pulled my hamstring, because I have memories of hamstring tears in high school, but there was no time that I was like, ow, I broke my hip and had to go get an x-ray. So it was just like the doctor in Mexico thought I broke my hip there, but then the doctor in America was like, no, you didn't break your hip here. You broke your hip 10 years ago, and this is just a hematoma. And then the moral, or the funniest part of all of it was my mom and I did mother-daughter physical therapy on our hips together because we were both broken at the same time in the same place. So we had the same physical therapist and went to all of our appointments together.
Hell yeah. And then you were competing to see who got better first. That's
yeah, I healed. So I tell all that because the hematoma healed in about a month. I was walking again. It took me a while to like running, so I actually still don't like run a ton anymore. But yeah, the hematoma healed, and within a month, I was walking a GRS, and I couldn't even believe it. Like I was still in pain, but it was way better, and I could walk. And then I had my 5th summer, so there's stories about that summer too.
hell yeah. Dang, girl.
Mm-hmm.
That's a full career right there. That's what you want. That's a full with Sizzler stories, recruitment stories, growth stories, and all. You did the whole thing.
Yeah, well,
you did it.
I did all of it. The number 7 org and the top first year, that was Alan Van Schaik. Hopefully, I don't know if he's watching this. That was both last year, in 2021. So that was a whole other year.
You came back and grew and crushed it. That's what
Yeah.
you did. Hell yeah, girl. Boom. I love it. Look at that. And this right there, that right there is an episode. That's
There
what
you
you
go.
call an episode right there. How was it? Did you have fun? Did you survive?
Yeah, I've told that story plenty of times, but now it's out in the masses. So I'm sure there's more things that happened that I'm forgetting because I just kept remembering stuff as I was telling it. But that was overall most of the story. And my ankle healed fine. I didn't actually break my ankle. That was a huge blessing too, where it was, I should have sent you that picture, but it was very bruised, but not broken.
That's wild, man. Moral of the story is don't dance at a table in Mexico or in general. Stay safe.
Yeah,
Stay
elevated
safe,
surfaces are not worth the hype. You stay on the ground, or just stay on the ground. You don't need to do it. It's not worth it.
It's better to be grounded. Hell yeah. Well, dang, man. I appreciate you being on here. Here's the thing, guys. One more time, we've been met with Maddie Whelan. We just heard about how she broke her hip and had a solid 5-summer career, and had some pretty amazing stories here to tell. But also, guys, don't forget, Maddie's the one that's helping us put together, along with Naomi Kaufman. She's a representative from the Ponytails podcast, and Maddie's a representative from Southwestern Travel. And so what happens now is you guys can click on the link that's pinned the comment below. It's also going to be in the description once this is done airing, where you guys can click and come to BIZZLER from August 15th to the 19th of 2022. Maddie will be there. I will be there. The Ponytails podcast team will be there.
I'll be on the ground.
A lot of fun.
But I'll be there.
And you will be on the ground. We will not have any broken hips, at least not from Maddie. Keep in mind that being said, make sure your insurance is good in case you do decide to be on the table. Because
you can purchase insurance too.
You can purchase insurance from Maddie. Travel insurance is an important thing to get, as we now have found out. So if there was ever a story to tell about why it's important.
Money.
So either don't do stupid shit and get insurance and don't get insurance, or do stupid shit but get insurance for it, just in case it breaks your hip or you get a hematoma.
That's the best part of that story, is that I didn't have to pay a cent. I paid a lot in tears, but not in money. So
that's right. And you were able to survive. So that's pretty solid. Guys, thank you so much. I believe Nick is being the host this Sunday. I'm not sure. Keep an eye out for more information on BIZZLER as we update. And of course, our merch is being launched. If you guys want to get more gear for Ponytails Podcast, it is here now. We'll get you more details on that as the episodes develop. We have now confirmed a couple of upcoming guests. We have Adam Liebler is this Sunday. We have Michelle Mitchell, who's the creator of Hum Kombucha, is coming up on the show. Robin Mukherjee is coming up on the show. That's a big name there. Dustin Hillis will be on the show coming up later on this summer. You guys might have heard of him. A couple of people there. Chrissy Rivers, now Christy Skalski. We have some pretty awesome guests up and coming here soon. So make sure you guys subscribe right below that way, right below Maddie. Maddie, do this.
This one.
Other side. It should be to your right, a little bit lower. That's what you want to go subscribe. Look at those guns. Subscribe in some sort. Wherever it says subscribe, hit that button. We'll see you guys in the next show. Thank you so much. My name is Andres Gamboa. This has been episode 118 of the Ponytails Podcast. Peace out, everyone. Bye.